Today's couples love planning their weddings with Zola. That's why it's the fastest growing wedding platform. It's got everything couples need for their entire wedding planning journey, including finding their venue, their planner, and their vendors. And wedding pros love Zola, the sponsor of today's episode, just as much as couples do. And I'll tell you why later in this episode. Hey everybody, it's Andy Kushner with the Wedding Biz, and today's episode is a very special one because we're recording live during Laurie Arons Masterclass at the Brush Creek Ranch in Saratoga, Wyoming. And today's episode is all about creating beautiful wedding photos for clients and also for us to use as marketing tools to promote our own businesses. So let's introduce our three special guests. I'm going to begin with Laurie. Laurie Arons of Laurie Arons Special Events has been on the Wedding Biz several times and has been featured in numerous magazine publications and was listed in Vogue, Harper's Bazaar, Martha Stewart Weddings as one of the top planners worldwide. Her clients include trendsetters like Sofia Coppola, hope I'm pronouncing that right, Vanessa Getty, and Christy Turlington, and prominent business moguls like Gary Friedman and Frank Caulfield. Jose Villa has also been on the show several times and is considered by many to be the top event photographer in the world. He's been published in numerous magazines and was named one of the top wedding photographers by Martha Stewart Wedding, Harper's Bazaar, Style Me Pretty, and Vogue. He was also named as one of the top 10 photographers in the world by American Photo magazine, and PDN named Jose one of the most influential photographers of our decade. Jose also runs workshops and authored the book Fine Art Wedding Photography. And now Carrie Goldberg. Carrie is another guest who has been on the Wedding Biz several times. She's the founder and creative director of CLG Creative, a fashion styling and creative consulting firm catering to personal and corporate clients worldwide. Throughout her work, Carrie channels her multifaceted background in editing, art direction, and creative direction from her experience as the weddings and travel director at Harper's Bazaar, and prior to that, as the senior fashion editor at Martha Stewart Weddings. So, I'm going to start, we'll do a couple one-on-one questions, and then would love to have a dialogue with everyone together. Laurie, when planning weddings, what are the most important characteristics that you look for in a photographer?
I definitely want a photographer that has a lot of experience producing or shooting weddings that are at the production level that we create, multi-day, highly detailed weddings. I do have a strong affinity towards film photography, which is becoming less and less common, but that has always been something that's important, that there is film photography involved. I love the beautiful way the light is filtered through the film, and it's, to me, so flattering on the skin tones, and I just find it so timeless and beautiful. And somebody that I think I just gel with and that cares about a lot of the things that I care about. So the client experience, the respect for the timeline of the wedding day, which is really, important as wedding planners to have a very thoughtful timeline that the client is aware of and that the photographer is willing to stay on that timeline and not go rogue.
Yeah, I love what you said also about gelling. I mean, I know it's not just the abilities and the talent of I like to call them creative partners instead of vendors. I want to really keep that going, creative partners. But it does seem that there's also just a vibe, right, that you've got to have with the people you're working with.
Right. Oh, exactly. You have to, I think, the photographer is a personality that I tell my clients is going to be around you a lot on the wedding day. And as the planner, the personality of the photographer is super important. And if I like the photographer and I get along well with them, the chances are my client will, because my client hired me for my personal personality and my business ethics and things like that.
Yeah. Jose, what are some of the most important elements in terms of what you need from a planner such as Laurie in order to help you create these amazing wedding photos that you do?
Well, the obvious, like a timeline. The big thing is communication. I'm, I think, lucky in the sense that I get to see and work, lucky and unlucky, to see and work with a lot of planners, and I get to see kind of what everybody does. And I think what makes it a successful wedding outcome really is having the communication and making sure that the planner can give me information about who these people are and allow me to communicate with the couple. I do have some planners that are very how do I put this? They're very careful about making too much of an introduction at the beginning of the relationship. And I understand why, but it's really important for me as a photographer to really get to know who these people are. So, we want to do an engagement session, or we want to, maybe meet in person. I don't want to just show up to the wedding and say, hi, I'm your photographer. There's so much more to that. Yeah. I see myself as more of an art director. I want to get to know even like what the linens are going to be like, what the floral is going to be like, what are they wearing? Again, that kind of plays into me being more of an art director. Mm-hmm. And I think overall it makes it for a stronger album, because that's really in the end what I'm going to be delivering to the client. So I want to know more. And some planners are a little bit not so open with that stuff. So I think if people or planners were giving me more information, then it would allow me to be better.
Yeah, that resonates for me. Like in the entertainment, the music, it's the same situation. Often I'm not given any of that kind of information, and I want to know, what are the colors? Because then maybe the band members can wear some kind of an accent there's ways to incorporate everything into it. I'm also thinking about what makes, I know this is a whole podcast in and of itself, but briefly, what makes for a great location or a venue for you to shoot in? What are some of the elements that you look for?
Yeah, I love natural light. That's just more sort of my style. Mm-hmm. But definitely like architecture is really important. Obviously color, time of year. Like one of the biggest things is like, okay, we can be at this beautiful venue, but what is the weather going to be like? Obviously we can't predict that, but what has years past sort of said that or are proven to be? I love greenery and I love animals. So for me, that's kind of what I'm always like attracted to, probably because I grew up in that environment. And I feel like I thrive outside. And of course, I love indoor too. And I can do an indoor wedding, no big deal. But I think that like I don't have to think when I'm outside, technically, because of like how I like to shoot. I literally just go. And I can just keep going like crazy. Inside, I have to think.
When you're doing an outdoor venue, do you like come out at the time of day, a week before, a couple of days, just to see when the sun's setting and where the shadows are? It's
important, I think, if a photographer hasn't been to a venue, to definitely do some scouting. It's really important to sort of understand where the lighting is setting so that you're not wasting any time the day of the wedding. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be showing up to the wedding for the first time and like scrambling. Where am I going to where are we doing the first look? If we're doing a first look, where are we doing the family portraits? And I always have to make sure that like I don't pull my clients too far away from where everything is happening, because it's just logistically going to put, the planner in a situation where it's more work for them. So I'm careful about that kind of stuff. I'm careful about timelines. I'm careful about, making sure that that we can still be successful, not having to go over the hill 5 miles that way because it's beautiful.
Yeah. Carrie, as a stylist, what is the best way that you like to, in terms of collaborating with a photographer, how do you look at that? How do you consider that?
I always was surprised when I started doing more weddings on site, how different it was from editorial. With a photo shoot, we have creative call after creative call, meeting after meeting. We plan and plan. With weddings, I was surprised that wasn't the norm. And it's something that I've almost started insisting upon, because to Jose's point, that's how we best serve the client on the day of. It's how we work together. It becomes a symphony rather than this disjointed band with a bunch of backup singers that have never met them before. So I like to create a final wardrobe deck that gets shared to all of the people working on the wedding: planner, designer, photographer.
This is ahead of time.
Ahead of time. Because I want to make sure that everybody understands the colors of the wardrobe. And those are based on the design decks that we've received from the planner in the process. Because my worst fear is to dress a client and have her or him walk into a room and it's like they didn't plan. They're not the host. The goal is that they should always look like the host of the event, not that we had, the taste level and they didn't. Yeah. They should really look like they seamlessly fit into the space. And so I want to make sure that they're not, if they're wearing blue, I don't want them to be a floating head in a blue room, but I want them to look like, it all flows beautifully together. And so we present a final deck prior to the wedding so that everybody sort of knows what's coming and how many changes there are. And also, the short answer to your question is knowing my place. I work for the planner. I work for the photographer. On that job, I am not the creative director. I can art direct as needed, but if Jose is on a job, I know that that's less my role, and it's more to kind of watch the dress, watch hands, small details that as they're moving, I can maybe be of help, but I'm not overstepping.
Are you generally working through the planner ahead of time for this, or do you have direct communication with the photographer also?
Both. I mean, typically, just because I've been in the industry for as long as I have, I usually know the players. If I haven't, I like to meet them in advance just because I work so closely with the photographer on the day of. So again, I want it to feel natural and not like we're meeting for the first time.
Yeah, I think what we're hearing a lot about here is it's such a collaborative process amongst all of us. I think it's really important as planners, producers to keep that in mind. Now, just for anyone to speak up, and again, this can be a dialogue, but I'm wondering what some of the potential pitfalls are that you want to try to avoid. And if you haven't, any of you have any stories that would make this fun?
We're all nervous to give our scary stories first.
Pitfalls. Well, I mean, I think Jose spoke to the fact that there are people, and I'm not one of them, that like to have, and even clients that want to go to multiple locations before their wedding ceremony begins. So they get photos like at the Palace of Fine Arts in San Francisco or something like that. And I think that is an incredibly bad idea for many, many reasons. But the groomsmen often will hijack the car and go to a liquor store. We lose touch with them, and they're kind of nowhere to be seen, and we're on a really tight time schedule. If there are issues at the venue, like it just can slow things down. And like my feeling is leading up to the wedding day, it needs to be clockwork, the hair and makeup, all of that. And if there are big hiccups, we have a little cushion, but that's like basically a recipe for so many disasters or pitfalls that it's just unacceptable in my book.
Yeah. I think I always have to remember that a wedding is not a photo shoot. And even though, of course, it's in some cases really hard to break away. Like, for example, like I love photographing the bride alone, and I could do that for like 2 hours. But we don't have that time, So I think I have to constantly remember, like, this is a living, breathing event. And we have to, it's not just me. This is just not about the photographer. We have to respect hair and makeup, wardrobe. Like, it's literally like Laurie said, you start with the hair and makeup. And if they're late or if we're late, it's a domino effect to what could potentially happen throughout the day. If the food is coming out, and I'm taking the bride and groom out for sunset photos, I know that I can't take them out during a certain time because the food's coming out, and I have to respect that. And sometimes I'm like, the lighting is amazing. The veil is going to be gorgeous with this and that and the wind picking up. And that's the part that kills me because I have to just let it go. Yeah. And I walk away sometimes going, damn, that could have been really cool.
So the planner or the producer really needs their team really to assign and make sure that everyone is on time, on point, in the right place. Like that's a real important piece of this.
Well, if you know the key markers of the timeline, you know, if you know the borders of the sandbox, you know where you can play a little bit. Like, you know where you can get that time back. Like I often feel like, especially when I'm working with photographers that I've worked with before, there might be 30 minutes budgeted in the timeline for getting ready photos. And I can turn to Jose and say, this is the look, like this is my getting ready look, this beautiful robe. Where do you want her? Do we really need 30 minutes? Can we do it in 15? Hair and makeup, which when we refer the artists especially, I see it as my role to sort of keep that on schedule. Do you guys need an extra 15 minutes? Can mom get in this chair quickly because she needs to be touched up because she's dressing bride. So it's secretly us, but in photos it's her. So let's get her dressed now so that we're ahead of this. And you kind of know where you can be
nimble. So there's a lot of improvisation kind of in the moment in a sense.
For sure. But you know that you can't miss those key markers. You know that, ceremony happens at this time. Family formals need to happen at this time. Bridal portraits need to be done by this so that touch-ups can happen leading up to that ceremony. And if I'm adding elements like a jacket, an overskirt, a veil, I don't want to be rushing to do that.
Yeah. So we're partly talking about also these moments that are created. And so I assume a big part of this, like Jose, as the photographer, you are looking for, there's the standard moments, obviously, at the ceremony that you know to expect. But I know a lot of your magic is how you catch unexpected moments right? And I mean, if you could say something about that, and then also Carrie and Laurie, how you look at helping to create these moments and provide them for the photographer to grab.
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely, photographers can set up a scene where a bride and groom are standing in front of a pretty tree, but not every photographer can really capture or anticipate moments when something is going to happen. And I think it just comes from experience from doing this for 20 years. Like, I know that there's going to be certain things that are going to happen, so I have to be ready with the right equipment to get those moments. I think I've learned to be patient. And yes, it's fast moving. All this stuff is, I have people in my ears all the time, planners, telling us we got to go to the next scene. And I've got, hair and makeup and all this stuff coming into the scene and fixing hair. I mean, it's a lot. It's a lot of chaos. So I think that a really good and strong wedding photographer is one that has patience and also can be okay waiting for a moment to happen. And sometimes, hey, I'll be honest, like I'll watch something in front of me and I'm like, wow, that is so beautiful. And then the moment's gone because I just enjoyed it and didn't take a picture. And so that has happened many times. But I've learned also to just constantly keep my camera here. And, yes, there's certain cameras, and I'm just thinking, talking technical, but certain cameras that are loud that can ruin those moments as well. Maybe even what I wear and how I approach the scene, to sort of blend in with everybody. So you're sort of a guest almost with a camera. And those are ways to be able to capture a lot of these genuine moments, and you have to be quick. And you have to be okay with letting those moments go, but just being patient that there's another one coming.
Yeah, I'm thinking too, for all the planners, producers in the room, that if you notice something, like I know when I used to perform, I don't perform anymore, I would set up moments and I would go grab the photographer and the filmmaker ahead of time and say, hey, we're gonna do something here. Why don't you be stage right? And if you want to get up on stage, feel free to do that. But I would think that, like Laurie and even Carrie, right? If you notice a moment, do you go grab Jose or the photographer and say, hey?
Oh.
Is that part of the process too?
Yeah. I mean, one of the things I'll say about Jose, and it's not true for every photographer, but if they're not this way, they don't end up on my referral list, is that he is always in the room. He is never like, where is Jose? Like something is happening that's important, and where's the photographer? Having the photographer committed and loving what they do and not wanting to be sitting in the back at the vendor table for a half hour, 45 minutes is really essential. So, yeah, but usually he or Nancy or whatever assistant is working with them that day, or many of them, we find them and they're always around. And that's really, really important. Yeah, and just focusing on setting the timeline up and setting your ceremony up for the right light and having a backup plan. And we haven't even talked about weather. Oh God, weather's a whole other thing. Mm-hmm. But yeah, just being smart about the timeline and where you're moving people and understanding the light. And sometimes the light is not going to be good and there's no way around it because it's the only place for cocktails or it's the only place. And then just warning Jose, and he comes prepared mentally that it is not going to be the perfect backlit situation.
Yeah, but I think something that I really love about you and your team is that you really care about the photos. Mm. But you also really obviously care about the experience. And so you make sure that, like, if we need to clear a room, that the room needs to be cleared. And you're very serious about that. Like, because I can be a little bit more of a mouse, like, excuse me, like, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But here comes Laurie. And she's like,
no. I go, room shot.
Yeah. Get out of the way. And it's awesome for me. I mean, I just sit there and I'm like, wow, that was the fastest room we've ever cleared every time. And that's what I love about working with Laurie, because I feel like she's on my team. It makes it easier for me because she knows all the people in the room. She knows all the vendors. She knows all the, the lighting people, the draping people, all these people. There's so many different players to make it happen. I don't know who those people are, and they don't have respect for me. They don't really know who I am. They do for Laurie. So they know that the ultimate goal really here is to get a really good, awesome hero shot. And they have to, I think respect that for, yes, our client, but also for the planner, in this case, Laurie.
Yeah. Why is Zola the fastest growing wedding platform? Because Zola does things differently. They've created a subscription-free platform that works for wedding professionals with free listings tailored to what you do that makes your business look great. And there are no paid placements or stacked search results. They are all validated leads. Zola will match you with pre-qualified couples who they know are a good fit for your style and fee structure. If you want to connect, it's easy. And there are no annual fees or commitment. Just pay for the leads you are interested in at a price that's fair. You're in control. Then there's Zola's excellent customer support, ready to answer any question and help in any way. They'll even create your free listing for you. So grow your business with the wedding platform that's proud to do things differently. Go to zola.com/Andy. That's ZOLA.com/Andy to start your free listing and even make your first connections for free. Carrie, how do you look at this whole idea of creating moments and capturing them? And
I mean, I'm sort of trained as an art director or creative director on shoots to think in photos. So I shop with photos in mind. I pick accessories with photos in mind. And you also have to know what photographer to grab for those moments. Like if I see a super chic guest holding the signature cocktail, that's a much more beautiful photo than a flat lay that I could do with that signature cocktail. But I'm not going to grab Jose to take that photo. I'm going to look at a second or a third shooter and be like, that's chic, and just walk away. If they choose to take it, it's completely up to them. And I think what we're all talking about in terms of getting those in-between moments is vibe. Like keeping the energy positive, keeping the energy calm, not wanting there to feel like there's stress or anxiety in the room, choosing hair and makeup artists that don't suck energy out of a space and keep that zen energy in the bridal suite, leading into a dressing team that's not stressing because the bride's super hot and the zipper's giving you a little bit of give back and you're nervous that you're not going to get it all the way up. And being able to keep that energy low and checking each other when we're not there. I mean, Jose and I have been in stressful situations together on weddings where I sort of look at him and we like take a breath. Stephanie on my team, 2 weeks ago, we were moving a bride with a massive haute couture gown in a big open field with it was tulle. It was a really delicate dress. I was moving a bride from car to golf cart straight into ceremony. It was incredibly stressful. She looked at me and mouthed, "Fix your face." Like, this is not the time to be, because she knows that it's important to me that the bride feel calm pre-ceremony, and my face was reading not calm. And if I'm the last person that the bride sees before she walks down the aisle, you want that to be a smile and a deep breath, not, oh my God. So I think it's all of our responsibilities to kind of work as a team to keep the energy chill.
God, you raised such a good point about how you're looking. When I used to be at the performances and I would run things with the band, I would get people pretty tense because it would be all over my face. It would be my body language. I would be walking really quick when there was an issue. I think that's one of the biggest things we all have to learn, right? Yeah. Like Laurie, I mean, you're in charge of everything, and we have to somehow, when there's a serious problem,
have
a calm look. Yeah, for the sake of the clients and for our team, both.
Yeah, I don't know that would you guys say there's one perfect wedding planner that has never been uptight ever, that does nice weddings? I mean, I've gotten better over the years, for sure. The experience is everything, and the incredible team that I have creates calm. Like, ceremony is no joke. The moments before ceremony and producing that ceremony, it's like live theater, and you can't take it back. So I feel Carrie's face, and the pressure, because I brought brides out into fields and they're hiding. And I mean, it's just so tense. Katie is over there and she knows, but I just now have more of my really strong team that knows me with me on ceremony. So the cues are better, because it used to fall only on me, and the amount of pressure in my body was palpable.
Yeah, it's true. It actually, pressure, that's huge. I think that it reminds me of a moment where a client, it was a celebrity client, we knew the wedding was going to be like a 8-page spread, full, whatever, People magazine cover, blah, 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 lots of money on the table. And I was so tense because we had 2 minutes literally 2 minutes to photograph the bride. And I was frantic because I was like thinking, 2 minutes, how am I going to get this? I need this lens. I need this lighting. And I'm literally kind of like working faster than I normally do. And the bride said, "Jose, chill out.
Oh, boy.
And I'm like, I would if you fucking gave me an hour. But I literally had 2 minutes. And I mean, it was the pressure of, like, you know, sweating.
And
like,
you never do that.
No. But
Never.
again, the money over this whole celebrity thing, $2 million photo, whatever, like they were going to get paid that much for this magazine. It all got to my head.
Yeah.
And it was like, we didn't need all that because all I really needed was a minute because she's freaking gorgeous and she knows how to move. And I just need to click, click, click and walk away and she's got it. But it was all in my head. It was this like, and she reminded me, chill.
We've started buffering for places that we can get ahead of those stressful moments because forever this ceremony, obviously sending the bride down, keeping calm. And then I watch while a bridesmaid so poorly fluffs this train and makes her look like the opposite of what I always imagined in my head. For me to walk up, it's in poor taste. The bride doesn't need to own in front of all of her friends and family that she hired a stylist. It's like kind of gross to be like, and here's my minion to fix my train. Like, that's not cute. But what we've started doing is we stunt as guests. So one of us, either me or Steph, dresses like a guest, sits in the front row, somewhat in color palette, so that we look like a bridesmaid from afar. And then we actually get to place the dress and place the veil and get in and out within 10 seconds because we know the dress so well. And then one of us gets to cry and enjoy the ceremony too, which is also nice. It's usually Stephanie. She cries at every single ceremony. So it's nice to put her there because she really does stunt as a guest. She's like weeping in a corner. But we've started buffering for those moments so that we don't leave anything on the table, but we also don't insert ourselves and ruin the vibe.
Yeah. There's another topic. Again, this could be hours. I just want to do briefly because some of you brought up lighting. Jose, when you're shooting inside, can you kind of summarize what you need in terms of lighting from a planner producer to be aware of when you're shooting inside?
It's definitely important for the photographer to get the opportunity to chat or communicate with the lighting person. Because one of my biggest pet peeves, I think, in a in-room, even outside when it's dark, is pin spotting. When you have a really bright light on this beautiful table with gorgeous, floral, the difference between lighting on the table and on the actual centerpiece could be a difference of 3 or 4 stops of light, which means when you're really sort of focusing and making sure that the floral looks good, the tables look so dark. And it's the opposite. If you make the tables look good, the floral is going to blow out. So you want sort of a beautiful, even light. I understand why you do the pin spotting. I know you want to highlight certain things, but it doesn't have to be so strong. And so, it's good to communicate with the lighting person to dial back on that. Could be 50%, could be 70%, whatever it is. Every photographer is totally different. And the thing that I really don't like right now with lighting is there's a lot of new LED type lighting, and that tends to go really blue and very green sometimes. And in new cameras, what it actually does is it flickers the back of my camera, so there's lines on my photo. And I'm like, oh my God, that is a disaster. So it's just really kind of knowing how to read a room very quickly as well, because you don't have time. But if you can talk to that lighting person, it's super important.
I want to also talk about how each of you suggest utilizing the final product of photos as tools for marketing your businesses. I mean, again, we're there for the client, of course, but we're also, it's important for us to think about marketing and what these photos can do for us. How do each of you look at that part of it? Or if you're going to, want to get published.
Yeah, it's a very important topic. I feel like for my Instagram and my website, having the photography be pretty fluid and consistent is very helpful. Obviously, there's daytime shots and they go into night, and there's black and white and color. But I feel like creating a look and a cohesive sort of vibe for my wedding work through photography is to have the photographers have a somewhat similar style, because I feel like it'll make my work feel more geared to me versus geared to the photographer. Because there's a lot of photographers that shoot really intense digital work and it's popular. it isn't my personal style. I really appreciate natural light and softer, more beautiful, or softer, beautiful photography. Not more beautiful. I shouldn't say that it's, for me, it's more beautiful. But I just think caring about that is really important. And I think my work got more and more popular and more respect because of my portfolio and the fact that I used Jose a lot, and then since picked other photographers that are in his sort of somewhat style of film and lighter, beautiful light work. It's done so much for my marketing.
Carrie, how do you think about this, marketing for your business with photos?
I'm in a very referral-based place at the moment, so it really is. But I do get a lot of inquiry through Instagram, and so my big ethos on that is you show work you want more of. So manually approved tags are my friend. I don't show dresses I don't particularly love. They happen because clients bring them into the process with them when they first hire me, or because, at the end of the day, that was what they loved. And that's the goal, right? Is to make them happy. That doesn't necessarily mean I need to do that again. So when something isn't in my style or elevated to a level that I feel it could be, I simply don't show it. And I control what people tag me in. So anyone can tag me in whatever they want, but what appears on my feed will always be approved by me.
Right. And can I say something? So your work, because you're very fashion forward, that's your brand and that's what you do. A lot of the high fashion magazines, Harper's, not Martha, but Harper's and Vogue, like a lot of times very contrasty, really ultra dramatic photography, which is, I think, important for you to show as well, because you're a fashion brand where I'm a luxury wedding planner and I have a look for weddings, but Carrie is fashion. So her photography, I think that she shows is beautiful, but it's different. She uses Jose and a lot of different things.
And I don't get to control who I use. So
Right.
I walk into a wedding where planner and photo are hired before me. I actually don't take on a client until those key elements are in place. I need to know who you've chosen because that indicates whether or not it's a client fit for us. So I do kind of get a varied photography style on my feed, but the fashion needs to feel, I'm looking for a consistent inconsistency. Like I want it to feel diverse because I want different clients and I want to create different dresses and different looks because it's not always a dress. So it's actually almost the opposite of Laurie's strategy, which is I want it to feel like I can bend and twist to a client's style rather than making them into my paper dolls.
Yeah. Jose, how do you look at this in terms of marketing your business, your career?
Well, it's everything. I mean, I feel like we kind of have that control as photographers to share what we think is the strongest images of the wedding. It doesn't mean I'm a good editor, though. I mean, you could be the best photographer in the world, but you share photos that really don't represent yourself or your client or, being the planner or the fashion designer, whoever. But I think after doing this for so long, I have a grip on that. I know what's good and what's not. But I think I look at a lot of younger photographers, and I know this because, I've done these workshops myself for a long time, and I look at their feed, but then I look at their raw photos in their full gallery, and I'm like, why didn't you choose this photo? Like, this photo is stronger and sends more of a message of who you are as a person and as an artist than the ones you're posting. And a lot of it is because they feel like, they're attracting these with photographers, we all want to work with wedding planners. I mean, that's just ultimately, that's what I've learned and what I've done with sharing and knowing and learning about these younger photographers is, how do we get to work with these planners? And a lot of it is really sharing your work, but sharing the right work that will make it so that it elevates you both.
Well, we have time for a few questions, and this is a rare opportunity, you all. I mean, at the same time, you've got Laurie, Jose, and Carrie. Anybody?
Laurie, have you ever received a gallery that you felt was a little underwhelming, or at least sneak peeks, I should say, that were a little bit underwhelming? In that case, what did you do? Did you go back to the photographer and ask for another series of images, or did you try and just adjust them yourself?
It doesn't happen very often, but yes, I have received them in the last 5 years, one or two, and I've asked the photographer to see if they can, like, I gave him nice constructive comments on what I saw, and he, I think, tried to fix those images, but in the end, that wedding sadly is not on my website because both weddings because of that.
Another question?
Do you guys ever feel you have to redirect from like the onset of planning as far as style or photography? Like I'm in a place where where I've found that people are dressing in a certain way, where I go, ooh, yeah, or like, we want the ceremony here. And I'm like, ouch, like, that's not going to photograph well. You have the arm in the background, like, I don't know how to redirect in a way that comes off genuine and kind without shooting my client down, like, at every turn.
Well, I mean, for me, I'm sure, Laurie's different, maybe, but for me, I show them examples because I've done this for so long. I'll go back and show them a really shitty backdrop and say, you want this or do you want this? And it's very simple and very quick. And there's no time wasted there. So I have visuals. I can tell people, hey, look, I've shot there before. And I don't recommend that because you're going to be like, the bride is always going to be in the sun, in certain scenarios, depending on, let's say, the location, for example. So I will say, do you want to be squinting in your photos all day long? And the answer is no. So then what would you suggest? So then I say, okay, great. Now let me tell you what I want to do. And then I tell them that within reason, because I know there's planners. Like for me, I don't want to try to, I'm not in it to step on planners' toes or anything. But a lot of times, I get hired first. And a lot of times I don't know who the planner is, or they're wanting me to help them find a planner. So I come into the situation and I help guide them because sometimes they might say, it might be someone that's a family friend or something. And I get that. And so I'll try to help guide them as much as possible, AKA don't have your friend, like hire a planner. But yeah, so I think every case is a little different, but I think I'm pretty good about my delivery. It's all about how you send the message.
And I agree. I definitely care a lot about particularly the ceremony setup because I know it's the difference between beautiful memories and photos and experience and not. So if the client, like I'll listen to what they want, and oftentimes I had already evaluated the situation and I have my idea and I know where the sun is setting, which is critical, and we'll talk about that. But I'm able to say, I understand, and I find out why they want that. And then I say, but I'd love for you to listen to why I think this is better and why. And I think if you say it that way without making them feel bad and saying your idea is tacky or your idea is stupid or, it's all about the delivery. And then you make them feel like they're a part of the decision, but you're giving them your expert opinion. And honestly, it's rare that they don't agree. And if they don't agree, I don't like them anymore.
You need to find your secret sauce to manage up. I mean, at the end of the day, yes, they're technically the boss because they're the client and they're paying you. But at the end of the day, it's your head. So you kind of need, like, my secret sauce is sarcasm. At the end of the day, that's the tool that I'll pull out of my back pocket if I really need. I'll use sarcasm as a way to kind of break a piece of information that I think might otherwise be a little bit harsh in delivery. And I'll start to kind of guide the client a little bit more towards what I'm thinking. And with fashion, it's a little bit more about figure flattery. So I can sort of use that as a tool as well. But I think at the end, I mean, I most recently said to a client, you hired me because you trusted me. So I'm just asking for your trust in this so that we can get across this finish line together in a way that I know is going to be exactly what you want. And I totally understand that this is a stressful decision, but we're in it together. I need your trust in this moment. And she was like, you're totally right. And it immediately dropped the wall rather than me being like, this is in poor taste, just trust me. And so I think it's really just about that managing up, but in whatever way is authentic to your personality. so that the client feel, because they clearly hired you for a reason.
We have one more question. You raised your hand.
Yeah, what would you say is the best presentation for a client in the proponent of hiring a stylist? Like, how would you approach presenting that idea? And almost like an elevator pitch in a sense, like what are the biggest things you can bring that we can tell our clients?
Sure. Just the selling points, like the elevator pitch of hiring a stylist. I love this question. I think the short answer is, wedding planning in general can bring on a lot of stress. The shopping, it sounds fun in theory. I've seen so many places where it can actually add more stress to a situation and where all of the opinions get in the way. Bring somebody into the room that's sort of a neutral, objective expert rather than the consultant who is looking for a commission, your mom who might have an idea of how you were going to look from as like when you were a little girl, and your best friend who might bring some jealousy to the table. I'm none of those people. So I'm really coming in to kind of make the overall vision that much more elevated and to create the best version of the client rather than turn them into something they aren't. And then on the day of, it's sort of that seamless hand-holding of I've been with you every step of the way. I know each look. I know everything from the undergarments out. Everything's going to be fine. And if there's a fashion emergency, we're here for that too. And I think the biggest selling point is if you want your wedding to get published, you need a stylist because fashion is what's getting a wedding published right now. It's no longer the gorgeous flat lay of every detail. It's the clothes. And if the bride and the groom don't look like they had say in the decor of in the decor or in the floral, if they look like their taste wasn't as good as the event they're walking into, there's a disconnect that editors can see.
Well, great. Before we go, if we could go down the line and each person give the best way to learn more about you, your website, your social media handles, whatever you would like to mention. Laurie?
Hi. Yes, you can find out about me on Instagram, instagram.com, Laurie Arons, LaurieArons, and my website, lauriearons.com.
Great. Jose?
JoseVilla.com or at JoseVilla on Instagram.
CarrieLGoldberg.com, and I'm at Carrie Lauren on Instagram.
Great. Well, look, thank you, everybody. This has been fun. I hope you learned a lot from this, and really appreciate all of you on the panel helping out today. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yep.